Christmas has always been my favorite holiday of the year, a time where your dreams are meant to come true. Well, this story I'm about to tell you happened to me around 27 years ago. I'm 34 now. It all started 2 days before Christmas. My parents needed to get some last-minute Christmas shopping in before the big day arrived, and my parents dropped me off at one of those North Pole Santa grottos in the center of the mall. They told me they would take just about 15 minutes. I sighed and started to walk over to the stereotypical mall Santa. White, long beard, big red coat, and everything you can expect from Santa Claus. The line wasn't too long, so I easily got my turn with Santa in less than a few minutes. The man, looking to be in his 60s with his Santa beard looking like it hadn't been washed in weeks, called me over to him and sat me on his knee. He asked me what it was I wanted for Christmas. I replied saying I just wanted the new Nintendo. It was one of the early Nintendos at the time, and every kid wanted it. The old man replied with a very strange answer that hit me by surprise. He asked me for my home address, so he could, quote, know where to deliver my gift. And of course, I fell for his trick, as I was only 7 at the time, and believed in all the magical fantasies that Santa Claus was going to visit me on Christmas Day. I gave him my address and he dismissed me. He gave me one last smile and wave as I ran off into the crowd to meet my parents, who were now in the clothing store next to the grotto. I wish this is where my story ended, but what happened on Christmas Eve still haunts me to this day. I woke up to a dark and quiet room. It was still pitch black outside, with the winter snow piling up my bedroom window. I was dehydrated and felt like I needed to get a glass of water downstairs from the kitchen before I tried to get more sleep. However, it struck me that I would have to go past the Christmas tree to get to the kitchen. My parents always said that I'm not allowed in the living room until the morning because Santa would see me. The thirst overcame me, and I forced myself out of my room and into the balcony overlooking the living room. But something caught my eye. There was this very tall person in a long red robe wearing the same Santa hat. He also had a big red sack of presents. I quietly opened the door into my 5-year-old sister's room to wake her and tell her that Santa was here. But when I entered the room, she was gone. This surprised me, as she normally won't leave her room like this at this time of night. I made my way back to the balcony, and I watched in horror as 3 men who all appeared to be in their late 30s were wearing elf costumes, and they entered the room. I saw my sister being given a gift from the guy dressed up as Santa, and the 3 other men leading her outside of the front door. I screamed and yelled. All 4 of the men backed out of the door, leaving my sister in tears. Not realizing the situation, I told her the story and forced her not to tell our parents. Then I put her back in her room. I made my way back to my room and went to sleep, forgetting all about the water. I just wanted to pretend like the night never happened. To this day, I still don't know what happened, but I never saw that dirty old Santa at the mall again. However, I'm sure that it was him at my house that night. This story happened 4 years ago on Christmas Eve. I live with my wife, sort of out in the country. The houses in my neighborhood are kind of spaced out, and we have a fairly big yard. That's why on Christmas Eve at about 9 p.m. at night, I was really surprised to hear knocking coming from the front door of our house. I walked over to the window to get a look outside and see who was there, but when I looked, there was nobody. I went around to every window that I could, and I looked to see if anybody was outside, but I couldn't see anyone at all, although it was pretty dark out. It was strange to say the least, but I figured it was probably some kind of prank. I thought, what else could it be? We got some snow that night, and the next morning when I woke up, we could see there was a bunch of footprints all over our backyard which hadn't been there the night before. The creepy part was they seemed to be headed towards my shed that I had in the back. I was concerned, so I decided to take a walk out to my shed to see if anything happened to it or if anything was missing inside. I walked out there, and once I arrived, I opened it up. As soon as I did, I saw a man in the corner turn around and then start charging at me. I turned and ran back for my house. Luckily, I was able to make it back inside before the man. I quickly called the police and watched from the window as the man went back into my shed. The police arrived a while later and arrested the man. He turned out to be on drugs and had wandered into the area. I'm a 20-year-old female, and 2 years ago, my family was having my aunt and cousins over for Christmas. The day before Christmas Eve, I went to a nearby shopping center to get my aunt a last-minute gift. I really had no idea what to get her, but I was finally able to find a nice hat that I was sure she would like. I was looking around the store before leaving, and a man approached me. He was much older than me, but appeared to be maybe in his 30s. He had a shaved head and just immediately seemed kind of creepy. He walked right up to me and asked me how I was doing. I told the man I was good and I was just about to leave. At that point, he asked me where I was going and if I wanted to get some drinks with him. I told him no thanks and then started to walk away. But the man followed me as I did and asked me what was wrong and why I didn't want to go with him. It was clear to me that he was going to keep following me. So eventually, I stopped and turned to him and told him in a firm voice to stop following me. Thankfully, the store was pretty crowded, and some people appeared to look over a little bit. The man stepped back and said fine and then walked away. I carefully stayed in the store for a while and then left to make sure that the man wouldn't follow me or anything like that. I got the hat from my aunt and then left the store to go to my car. I got in and began to drive away, but as I started to drive, I noticed an older-looking van with the man sticking his head out of the window at me and smiling in the creepiest way possible. It gave me the chills as I drove off, and I was once again careful to make sure that he didn't follow me. I was able to make it back home all right, and the man didn't follow me, but I just feel lucky with how busy the store was, because the way that man was smiling at me was completely insane. I just want to start off by saying that Christmas is my favorite holiday. But every year, I remember what happened to my family and I on Christmas years ago. I was 12 years old at the time, and I went to my cousin's house with my family to celebrate. On Christmas Eve, my family and I decided to stay the night at my cousin's house because our house was sort of far away. There were guest bedrooms for my family and I to sleep in. But I woke up at about 4 a.m. When I did, I heard noises downstairs, so I decided to go check it out. I went downstairs, and when I did, I saw someone dressed as Santa Claus. I saw him looking around in the kitchen and looking for gifts under the Christmas tree. There wasn't that many Christmas presents left because my family and I had opened most of them, but there were still a few left under the Christmas tree. I went back upstairs and woke up my dad. He came downstairs with me, but there was no one inside the house. My dad told me I had just had a bad dream. I decided to go back to sleep, and in the morning when everyone was up, we were getting ready to eat breakfast. My uncle went in the basement to go get some drinks, when he said he saw the basement window was shattered and it looked like someone had climbed in. My uncle called the cops, and when the cops came, they couldn't find any other evidence other than the broken window. My whole family was scared. My uncle and dad checked the whole house to make sure nothing was stolen. After a while, my uncle and dad came running downstairs and came into the kitchen where we all were and said they heard something in the attic. They went back upstairs to check it out, and shortly after that, they started yelling because they saw the man that I had seen dressed as Santa Claus hiding behind a bunch of boxes. They called the police once again, and all of us went outside to wait for the cops to arrive. When the police came, the officers went running inside and pulled the man out of the attic. They found that he had a knife and tape in his pockets. The officer said it wasn't just him breaking into our house, but there had been multiple reports of someone dressed as Santa Claus walking near people's houses in the area, and we were the fourth call. The officers also told us that these